Speakers, publishers, consultants, coaches, and info marketers unite. The Speaking of Wealth Show is your roadmap to success and significance. Learn the latest tools, technologies, and tactics to get more bookings, sell more products, and attract more clients. If you're looking to increase your direct response sales, create a big-time personal brand, and become the go-to guru, the Speaking of Wealth Show is for you. Here's your host, Jason Hartman.
Welcome to the Speaking of Wealth Show. This is your host, Jason Hartman, and this is episode number 1. Yes, the inaugural show, where we discuss profit strategies for speakers, publishers, and consultants. If you want to increase the profits of your business, your career, and not just experience success, but significance, that's why we all got into this great business of ours. It's all about success and significance. And today, for our very first show, we will feature very famous author, speaker, consultant, very successful, none other than Harvey Mackay. You know Harvey, the guy that first taught us how to swim with the sharks without being eaten alive, and he'll be talking about that and his new book and some of his other works. So let's go to the interview with Harvey Mackay. It's my great pleasure to welcome Harvey Mackay to the show. You certainly know of him. He is the man with all of those great book titles. First and foremost, many years ago, it was How to Swim with the Sharks Without Being Eaten Alive. Many other bestsellers in between. His latest book is Use Your Head to Get Your Foot in the Door. And he's sold over 10 million books, translated into 42 languages, distributed in 80 countries. I've enjoyed his nationally syndicated column for many, many years now. And Harvey, it's great to be talking with you.
Jason, nice to be with you. I've been avidly looking forward to this interview.
Well, good. Tell us about your most recent book, if you would. It is so timely, and I hear that it just hit number 4 on the New York Times bestseller list. Congratulations.
Well, I'm very proud of that. Found that out about 24 hours ago. Yes, this coming Sunday. So kind of proud, along with USA Today and Wall Street Journal bestseller. You know, you work on a book for 2 years, and you like to get results after all that effort. So I'm a very happy camper. The book has a little unique feature in it. On the back of the book, if everybody turns it over, if they eventually had a book, it would say the following: do not read this book. Study it, underline it, highlight it, use Post-it notes, and if after 6 months you don't have a job, all right, I personally, and I sign it right there on the back cover, will give you your money back. People, Jason, have asked me, and I've been out on the road now, I've got 23 cities left, 7 down, 23 to go. So I've done numerous radio and television, maybe over 50 or 60 interviews already. Everyone asks me, how can you make a claim like that? Well, my answer is I've been doing this for 45 years, calling from Minneapolis, where the company I founded right here, McKay Mitchell Envelope Company. I've had about 500 people through my front door in the last 40 or 45 years. They've gotten exactly what they wanted. When I wrote Swim with the Sharks, I had in the back page, money back guarantee, if you don't like this book. Well, 5 million copies of Sharks were sold. 18 people, Jason, 18 people asked for their money back. 7 of them were my best friends.
Well, you know what? No prophet is ever revered in his own circles.
So anyway, and if I could set the stage for you, and this is not a typo. Our listeners have to know these are real numbers, and I know this goes to many, many, many countries. I've had an opportunity to speak in about 80 different countries, so I'm sure virtually every country that is listening, person listening from a different country, I think the concepts don't change. The philosophies don't change. Nothing has changed in the last 100 years or the next 100 years as far as being successful. Now, how we get our information and everything, that's a whole different new world. But here is the setting for the table, if I may. This very moment, and this is not a typo, this is Federal Bureau Labor Statistics. There are 14.8 million Americans, all right, looking for work, unemployed, downsized, restructured, right-sized, mergers, acquisitions, consolidations, 14.8 million people. 6.3 million of the 14.8 have been looking for 7 months or more. That is just unrealistic. That number was only 1.5 million 5 years ago. The average college graduate this coming June, he or she will have 10 to 14 different job changes in his or her career, and now get this, 3 to 5 different career changes. 10 to 14 job changes, by age 38. I'm going to repeat that. By age 38, 10 to 14
Wow.
changes. 3 to 5 different career changes. 3 to 5 different career changes in their entire career. So you see, it's a perpetual job search that we're talking about out there.
Yeah, times have definitely changed. Nobody's going to work for the same company for 40 years and getting a gold watch anymore, are they?
That's correct. My father was a writer, headed the Associated Press here in St. Paul, Minneapolis, for 40 years. He did get the gold watch, but that's right, not anymore. So you have to prepare to win. You have to do your homework. I've got 300 pages, 69,000 words that give reveal a lot of secrets, how to be successful, and make sure you're not one of those 14.8 unemployed.
I love some of the stuff you cover in the book, and it's so timely, again, with so many people looking for positions and wanting to use your network. And by the way, Harvey, I got to tell you, one of my other very favorite book titles of yours that I have talked about in many speeches I've given.
Can I take a guess?
Sure, yeah, go.
All right, I'm just going to guess. Dig your well before you're thirsty?
You got it. I love that title. And that's really what that applies to networking and job searching and so many opportunities in life, doesn't it?
It's in 200 universities. Dig your well before you're thirsty. And guess what? I don't sell anything on my website. This is for all the listeners around the world. They will receive, just by listening this very minute, they can receive a $12.95 book. It's the Harvey Mackay Rolodex Network Builder, which summarizes the Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty, no charge, free. They can download it. I sell nothing on my website. They can get that book free. They can get all kinds of reports free. They can get a 66-question customer profile. There's just all kinds of gifts on there. They can do all of those things at no charge. So, yes, thank you for mentioning that book, and that's a very good opportunity for all our listeners to go to that website and get that free book, which will help them not only in getting a job, but will help them climb the ladder the rest of their life. You see, what I wrote here, Jason, is an A to Z career resource book. This is not a book just for someone looking for jobs. This is for entrepreneurs. This is for CEOs, managers, people who hire, who fire, negotiations. It's all in there, and they'll find out by hitting my website.
I remember a long time ago learning about the Mackay 66, as you call it. And Harvey, tell us how it relates to job seekers.
Surely. You actually, you must memorize the book, because that's the number one key ingredient. Definition of a secret is when one person knows. And there are, maybe over 100, I think, secrets and good ideas in the book. But this is number one. You just nailed it, Jason. You nailed it. And here's what it is. The Mackay 66-question customer profile I came up with at age 21. I was an envelope salesman working for a huge company, and I decided that every company I called on, of course, there's a purchasing agent. They're called purchasing managers today. There are 300 buyers I was calling on. Well, I decided that I wanted to humanize my selling strategy at age 21. So I came up with these 66 questions that I would love to know about the customers that I call on. I want to know about their hobbies, their recreation, if they happen to be married, anything about their children, their previous jobs, where they take their vacations, political preference, odd jobs they've had before, spouse's interest, children's interest. These are all the things I wanted to know. And therefore, I put that in Swim with the Sharks, and that's one of the reasons why I guess it went through the roof. But now let's apply this, and I call that humanize your selling strategy. Incidentally, in that little $12.95 book I just talked about that everyone gets free that's listening to this program that can download within seconds, there's 20 pages in the 112-page little booklet there, 20 pages of my speech that I delivered to the MBA program at Harvard, the MBA students. And it's called, of course, Humanize Your Job Search, or Humanize Your Selling Strategy. So now let's get back to your question. If you're going for a job, a lot of people will Google the company, but they forget that people, which is wonderful, you have to do that, but now there's a human being that's hiring you. People buy from other people, and people hire other people because of chemistry, because of likability, because of people skills. You have to level the playing field. So we teach our salespeople to read the desk, to read the walls, to read the reception area when you walk in, to keep gathering information about your customers, to stay close to them. And then again, you humanize it. So that's how you get your foot in the door. That's how you get the business. Example, just a brief example. Let's say, Jason, you're going to interview me, and for some reason or other, you don't grant me an interview. I'm calling your assistant, your HR director of an XYZ company, and I can't get my foot in the door. Well, if I go to the invisible web, which is, again, in the book, 10 pages on the invisible web, which gives you search engines and databases virtually 99% of all the listeners have never heard of before, I can find out some of your interests. I can find out your golf scores. I can find out what your golf handicap is. I can find out who you contribute to, believe it or not. And let's just say that I find out that you're with the Salvation Army, as a volunteer, you're on the board of directors, or the United Way, whatever. What I'll do is I'll write you a little letter and I'll say, Dear Jason, I've been trying to get an appointment with you and to no avail. Just want to let you know, I know you're involved with United Way, Salvation Army, whatever. I'd be happy to volunteer 25 hours to that organization if you'll give me an interview.
Right. What a unique way to get your foot in the door, huh?
Won't that you stand up and listen a little bit to a creative candidate?
Absolutely. Very creative. And you figure if that candidate is so creative in getting in the door, they're going to be creative in their position with your company. They're going to think out of the box. They're going to go the extra mile and really bring revenue to your company.
You want to be a differentiator in all aspects, whether you're looking for work or anyone listening right now that has a job already. Differentiator, outside of the box. All the studies known to mankind prove the following. All right, theory, and it's in practice too. All right, there is no, zero, zip, none. No correlation between IQ and creativity. I've studied it for 40 years. Every listener on this program right now can become way more creative than they ever thought they could. And so that's what they have to study. That's what they have to learn. That's what they have to apply. I've always said in Swim with the Sharks and in a few of my books, knowledge does not become power until it's used. I want to repeat that. Knowledge does not become power until it's used. Ideas without action are worthless. So therefore, you have to take that self-help book and you have to take from those pages, all right, all the creative juices that you're going to learn about, and you have to take them to the marketplace.
Absolutely. Very, very good point. Let's talk a little bit about the job search, and I do want to leave some time to go beyond that to some of your prior work about salesmanship, management, leadership, etc.
Surely.
But what are 2 or 3 questions every candidate should be prepared to answer on an interview?
And in the back of the book, there's 20 questions from a guy by the name of Einstein. He's no longer living. He's one of the top gurus in the world as far as interviewing, hiring, keeping winners. So there's 20 of his questions that I've worked with him. I've studied at his feet for about the better part of 25 years. And some of them you have to be prepared for. If you're a manager applying for a job, they'll ask you, or you'll have to be prepared, whom did you hire the last couple of years at your last job? Did you grow them with the company? Where are they right now? Wow, tough question. Prioritize your weaknesses. Well, you have to think about that for a minute. You can turn that into a plus. If you happen to be a perfectionist or a workaholic, now you have to tell the truth. You can't tell half the truth. You have to tell the whole truth. You have to be authentic. But you can just say if you happen to be a workaholic or a perfectionist, you start listing some of the assets that some human resource people want to hear about. And then therefore you've taken a negative into a plus. They're going to ask you, where do you want to be in 3 years? Whatever you do, don't say, I want your job. Some people actually answer that question to show aggressiveness. I'd like to have your job. That's like saying, officer, I didn't know I was speeding. That's a no-no.
That could be a little intimidating.
And
sure.
you also will be asked again what your plans are, what your dreams are. You'll be asked about teamwork. Teamwork's the number one buzzword in all of the work society today, all over the world. It's a teamwork. It's not I. Those are really, some tough questions. Can you lie? And if so, under what circumstances? Better think about that one for a minute or two.
Yeah, right.
And now here, Jason, is we want to do a 180-degree turn. So now you're prepared. I was a lucky guy. I was the Miss America judge a few years back, and some of those women are prepared from the day they're born to answer the toughest questions, right? And so what you have to understand is everybody's prepared to ask the tough questions, but then you want to ask some questions, at the end of the interview. A lot of HR people will say, do you have any questions? And you can't say, well, no. You have to be thinking about that. In other words, example, tell me about the person I'm replacing. Tell me about my boss. Why did that person leave? Tell me about your values. There's all different kinds of real tough questions that you can be prepared for. And now here's the real key. When you walk out of the interview, don't start your car. Just get in your car and debrief yourself. Pale ink is better than the most retentive memory. What does that mean? Write it down. Write it down. We forget 50% of what we hear in 4 hours. And so therefore you debrief yourself. What other new people did I meet? Did I pronounce the names right? Where did I blow it? What questions should I have asked? What questions didn't I answer according to my, standards? All these different mistakes that might have been made in case I get invited back a second time. See how creative that is, just to be able to have that strategy? I've always said, and again, go back to swim with the sharks, practice makes perfect. That's not true. You have to add one word. Perfect practice makes perfect.
Yeah, very good point.
So you must practice the right concepts. There's just too many people out there practicing the wrong concepts. Creativity, back to your question on creativity for a moment. I can tell you 99.9% of the people out there looking, among the 14.8 million, do not do a DVD of themselves. And if you can't get an interview, that's a good thing just to send your 3-minute DVD. If you already got the interview through a career coach, or through a industrial psychologist, anything, whomever is helping you, then you leave the DVD with them. And that 3-minute DVD can knock their socks off, because you become a differentiator all of a sudden. And
I assume that's what you mean by expose yourself in the privacy of your own home, right? That's probably boy, you memorized the book. Yeah.
That's my favorite chapter for the following reason. That's right. Expose yourself in the privacy of your own home. What do I mean by that? As soon as you get terminated, immediately you should have already, hopefully, a kitchen cabinet. That's 2 or 3 or 4 friends who really care about you. You go out and get a video camera. You get to your living room. You have those 2, 3, 4 friends video you, and a mock interview on some real tough questions over and over and over, really drill you. Now they can critique your performance. Now you're better prepared for the next interview. Over and over and over again. Can you imagine, Jason, if you and I were lawyers and we had to give a summation to the jury, after a 2-week difficult trial, and we wouldn't have practiced our summation to the jury, our speech, in front of our partners or somebody, so they could critique our performance? No, I can tell you 98% of the people don't do that when they go out looking for a job. It's just another secret among the 100 secrets in the book itself, and it's very, very practical. All of a sudden, when you've done that, you've had those mock interviews, guess what? The butterflies go away. The nervousness goes away. Your poise comes back. You have confidence. You roll in there. You've done it before. Doesn't that make good sense?
Oh, it absolutely makes good sense. I'd say preparation and practice, and then also just rehearsing it in one's mind, playing, sort of future playing what the scene will be like and how it will work, and really kind of just future pacing it, really, is the way I want to say it.
It's nice role playing. Another secret in the book, which probably would be in the first 3 or 4, is the moment you get downsized. And this should be everybody again, every listener who has a job. They should be doing this right now anyway tomorrow morning. They should go with their passion. They should be thinking about the best charity in town that they like, that they're passionate about, a nonprofit organization, and they should volunteer. Now, why do I say that? Well, let's just say that you're out of work. Now you immediately go with, again, the United Way, Salvation Army, whatever's close to your heart. All right, what happens? Charities today, because of the economic tsunami that's happened in the last 18 months in the world, not in the U.S., in the whole world, charities have their back to the wall. They have 3 problems. Number 1, money. Number 2, money. And number 3, money. So what does that mean? That means you have to go out and ring doorbells. That means you have to go out and knock on doors. You have to call on businesses. That means you have to help them raise money. That means you have to make presentations. It means that you might have a few people reporting to you after you get involved with that organization. Now, what does that equate to? It means you become a better salesperson. You become a better speaker, a better leader, a better communicator. And on top of it, you're networking at the same time you're back in circulation, working with this organization, helping them raise money. I mean, these are things that, a lot of people don't think about, but believe me, after doing this again for 40 years and having those 500 people through my front door here, I can tell you they get exactly what they want ultimately.
Well, Harvey, it can be very discouraging staying motivated during a job search, handling rejection. What is your advice on that?
Well, that's probably the key word in the whole book out of 79,000 words, the word rejection. It's very difficult. Every person, again, alive, has to know the following. Here's my philosophy. I've never yet met a successful person in his or her entire life who hasn't had to overcome either a little or a lot of adversity in their lives. So number one, you have to know it is coming. That's number one. There's incidentally a chapter in the book. This is a roundabout answer, but it's so very, very important because you've really hit the cornerstone of the whole book, and whether people fail or whether they succeed. And that is there's a little story there, a fable about the devil, and he had some tools, okay, and he put them out on the table there. And what were those tools? There were the tools of greed and lying and every negative that you could think of out there. And also, though, they look very harmless, but they were there, he had a tool of discouragement. And that was old and worn out. That was priced far above all the other tools that he was going through, okay? And so, boom, what does that mean? Well, he could easily come up with discouragement. Once someone's discouraged, he could then prey on those people with all of his other greed and larceny and lying and all those evils. Got it? So when you're discouraged, you're down. Now you have to know, again, that failure does not have to be permanent. It's only temporary. Your attitude determines your altitude. So number two, when you lose that job, when you lose that sale, we're talking success here too. When you lose that, you can't take it personally. You have to just pick yourself off the mat and bounce back. My last book was We Got Fired. That's the best thing that ever happened to us. On the cover, I put 12 famous people who had been fired. Lou Holtz was one of them, Notre Dame coach for 11 years, in the Hall of Fame, one of the greatest football coaches ever lived. I'm lucky. He's my best friend. We're joined at the hip. He's basically my brother. And in there, he tells the story about how he got fired, okay, at the University of Arkansas. Very successful coach, the former coach, and he's athletic director at the time, Frank Broyles, fired Lou Holtz. He goes home. He tells his wife, Beth, he's going to sue the school, sue Broyles. He's upset. His wife talks him out of it. She's brilliant and bright and smart. He goes back, hat in hand, apologizes. Now let's look at the results. He winds up getting the University of Notre Dame football job.
Right.
He stays there 11 years. Frank Broyles got him the job. Couldn't have got it without that. In other words, as Holt says it, this is his quote, I'd like to take credit for it, but if you're going to burn your bridges, you better be a damn good swimmer. So you see, you have to learn something from that rejection that we're talking about here. You have to learn something from the no that you got when you didn't get the job. That's how you overcome rejection. And then that kitchen cabinet, the 2 or 3 or 4 friends who are really close friends who care about you, they can help you also buttress that rejection.
And understand that things may well be a blessing in disguise, and they usually are.
Oh, long term, if you look at the Depression and the 29, 31, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you should see a list. I could give you a list of 50 companies, great companies that were founded during those tough years. I mean, just Boeing and Hewlett-Packard, United Technologies, I could go on and on and on. It's incredible, the companies that were founded, and likewise, the individual entrepreneurs that were born. Find something you love to do, and you'll never have to work a day in your life.
Yeah, that's what I say. It's
that's
play.
What these listeners have to feel out there is that when you get that, necessity is the mother of invention. And when you're thrown out there on the street, a lot of wonderful things can happen to you. And again, we got fired. It's the best thing that ever happened to us. I can't begin to tell you how many hundreds and thousands of people that I came across that they said it was the best thing that ever happened to them. Long term, not short term.
Right, right. And you got to be able to see that long-term vision of the opportunities that will open because one door has been closed. And necessity is the mother of invention, no question about it. Let's kind of switch gears, if we can, to some of your older work. I mean, you're a fantastic sales and management trainer, leadership trainer. What would be some of your tips from some of your older work, like Swimming with the Sharks, your most famous book, the one you're known for? And by the way, I got to ask you, you got the largest advance in publishing history when you wrote that book. And it just launched you into a life of fame as an author. And how do you think of these titles? I love your book titles. They're fantastic.
Well, again, I practiced the right concepts, and then I can tell you why I got that advance. I can tell you the secret, which again is going to go back to that $12.95 free book that everybody can download because it's all in there. But the titles, what I do is I go out and get 6, 8, 10 people, and I have coaches. I have a coach, and I have a skiing coach, a golf coach. I have a speech coach. Believe it or not, I use coaches for everything because whatever my God-given potential is, whatever my God-given talent is, then I can't get any better. Once I've had proper instruction, once I focus, on my goal, and a goal is a dream with a deadline. Repeat that: a goal is a dream with a deadline. Once I focus on that, then I can accomplish that. So those titles all come up with 8, 10 people sitting around for 4 hours, and then we've got a moderator there. It happens to be a woman. And she's been with me. She's my humor coach as well as my creative coach. And we sit around and we watch TV shows that have something to do with what I'm writing, clips. We read magazines. We read newspapers. She's done all her homework. And then everybody just blurts it out. And on Swim with the Sharks, I came up with over 500 book titles pasted on the wall in 6 hours, a 6-hour creative session. 500. And then everybody gets a gold star, and they go up there and they say, which title do you like? And that's what came out of Swim with the Sharks. It happened to be my title, and they all liked that one, so that one beat all the other titles. Now, how did I get that advance? It's real simple. I wanted to have a lot of books printed. Just a little background on publishing, and that is as follows. If you're an unknown first-time author, and you want to get published, business books. There's 11,000 business books that will be published this year, 2010. 11,000. They'll print, if you're unknown, never heard of, 10,000 hardcover books. Now, that's very difficult to get started because there's 5,000 bookstores in the U.S. That's 2 books a store. And, of course, back they didn't have Amazon.com, all right, back when I wrote Swim with the Sharks. So I rolled into a summit meeting, all right, with a CEO, president, VP National Sales, 3 of them, and I looked at them after 45 minutes because it was our summit publish meeting, whether they're going to go with me or not. I said, I'd like you to seriously consider publishing 100,000 hardcover copies Swim with the Sharks. We're on the 37th floor. They told me to jump. Thank you very much, Mr. Mackay. Obviously, we're not going to get together, but who are you? They screamed at me. Come in here and ask for 100,000. When I came into the boardroom, I'd carried in 2 humongous briefcases, and then I took them, put them up on the conference, the board table. And then I took out 2 huge Rolodex files, 6,500 names since my father got a hold of me age 18. My father told me every person I meet as long as I live goes in the Rolodex file, a little bit about them on the back of the card, and then find a creative underline, creative way to keep in touch. And I took those out and I started going through them. General Mills, 14,000 employees. We do business with them. Maybe they'll read the book, pass it along. 3M, maybe they'll read the book, pass it along. General Electric, Carlson Companies, Cargill. And I said, we do business in 10 countries at the time. Today it's closer to 18 to 20 now. And I said, here's Spain, here's France, here's Germany, here's Paco Galatas, 2,000 employees in Spain. Maybe they'll read the book. Maybe it'll be an international bestseller. Boom. 3 meetings later, they published 100,000 hardcover books, Swim with the Sharks. And that story is told in Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty.
Sure, and that's what you did. You dug your well before you were thirsty, and you showed the publisher you had a huge platform, so they were interested right away in showing that leap of faith with you because they saw that you had the distribution channels.
Mm-hmm. I have a network, and there's no question. Again, my father taught me it. I've got 12,800 names in my computer now. It used to be in my Rolodex. Most people know about 200 people, Jason. And if you multiply it to 2 by 4, it's 2 million times 2. I got 4.8 or 10.8 million contacts. And so that's why you every person you meet, you should have a deep down burning desire to find out what makes them tick. And when you extend your hand, and this my father taught me again, and I've been doing it since age 18, when you extend your hand and you introduce yourself to someone, as long as you live, assuming you want to be happy and successful, right to your brain bank, you should say to yourself, what can I do for that person? And expect nothing in return. And if you do that all your life, my father never made $10,000, head of the Associated Press here in the Twin Cities, St. Paul, Minneapolis, for 40 years. Never made $10,000. Was his goal. He got to 9, but never to 10. But he lived like a millionaire. Why? He had friends. He had contacts. He was happy. He was successful. So he taught me that, and I guess that's what I've been doing since I wrote Swim with the Sharks and my other 5 books, doing the same thing.
Well, just give us some of the main thoughts, if you would, from Swim with the Sharks.
Surely. Well, we talk about the 66-question customer profile.
The Mackay 66.
And again, I have to go back to that little book because, all our listeners, they can get all this free. They don't have to even buy the book.
Right.
They don't have to buy the book that we're talking about here, but they can get it free, again, in that little $12.95, the Harvey Mackay Rolodex Network Builder. It'll explain to them, okay, the 66-question customer profile. On the website, they get free the 66 questions. In that $12.95 book, it explains how to use the 66. So that's the cornerstone of all my success. But then over and above that, it's the networking, which, of course, you have to go out. You have to be out there. And that's why I'm a volunteer. That's why 1/4 of my life is volunteerism. I wouldn't be talking to you if my father didn't push me over the cliff at age 21 when I graduated from the University of Minnesota. Kind of cocky. I was a history major. Wanted to start at the top and work up. And again, thought I knew it all. But he said 1/4 of your life is going to be volunteerism. And so I went out and I became the state cancer chairman after 3 years of working with the American Cancer Society. And then I became a good speaker and a good planner and an organizer. So those are the things you have to do. You have to network. You have to understand negotiations. I'm a firm believer in reading the greatest books that have ever been printed, ever. And then again, you can't read them once. I mean, I've still got How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I've read the book 100 times.
That's a classic. I read that book when I was 17 years old. It's great.
There's a fellow by the name of Warren Bennis, who is at USC, University
the leadership
of Southern
teacher.
California, who gave me an endorsement and said that I'm the closest thing to him. And, of course, maybe that's because I read the book 100 times. And then I put my own examples in a lot of his philosophy and developed my own. The Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. So self-help books really mean something out there. You don't go to school once for a lifetime. You're in school all of your life. And so I believe in audio tape libraries, which are now today CD libraries. So every time I get in my car, and I do a lot of driving, if you drive 10,000 miles a year and you live average life expectancy, American female, 78 years of age, American male, 73 years of age, just drive 10,000 miles a year, live those number of years, you'll spend 3 years in your automobile. Why not turn your automobile into a university?
That's what Dennis Waitley said when I discovered him at age 17. He said, your car should be a rolling university.
Yes, and I was just with Dennis Waitley last week, and he's fabulous. He's just a brilliant individual and a brilliant human being, and I've had a nice 25-year relationship with him. He's even helping me sell this book, Use Your Head to Get Your Foot in the Door. So anyway, back to sharks and back to your question. What it is it's networking, it's contacts, what you can do for someone else, it's work ethic, it's values. And then I can tell you, I've interviewed 1,000 people. We have 600 people on the payroll here in Minneapolis. And again, we make 25 million envelopes every day. That means you have to sell, Jason, 25 million envelopes every day.
Wow.
All right? And in this office where I'm calling from right now, I had 1,000 people here, one at a time. I'm looking for one thing when they walk in. 5-letter word. Most important word almost in the English language, in all relationships, in life. TRUST. when a person walks in here, if I can trust them because they're representing me and my brand and my name and my reputation, then I look for all the other skills. And right at the top of the list happens to be a sense of humor. After I can find trust in someone, I'm looking for their sense of humor. And then, can you believe it or not, I've started looking for the skills because we want camaraderie. We want teamwork. There's no I in team. These are all the things that we look for in order to be successful. And I can just tell you, they do work for me.
Definitely good advice. Any thoughts from your other books? We've got to wrap up here pretty soon, Harvey, but you've got such a huge body of work. I mean, nationally syndicated column for so many years. Just any of the general success tips, sales tips.
General philosophy, beware the naked man who offers you his shirt. Subtitled, that's my second book after Swim with the Sharks, Do What You love what you do, and deliver more than you promise. Very important to be successful out there. After trust is deliver more than you promise, but that's a very entrepreneurial book as to how to become an entrepreneur and what you have to do. If you ask me again, to be a successful entrepreneur, what do you need? Well, you need mentors. You know, even the Lone Ranger had Tonto, and that's for the American audience, okay? But you can't do it all by yourself. And so you need that kitchen cabinet as soon as you get out of school, as soon as you're out there, have a job, you get those 2, 3, 4 friends. And mentors, a mentor is different than a kitchen cabinet. Mentors change over a period of a lifetime, but everybody studies at the feet of someone. I studied at the feet of all kinds of famous authors and personalities and business people. And that's what every listener should do. Now, they don't have to be famous. They can just be anybody that's successful. And once you get 2, 3, 4 different opinions, then boom, again, you've dramatically changed the probability that you will be successful. So these are some of the things, again, that are in all the books. This book, again, I'm very proud of. I think it'll be around 25 years. Swim with the Sharks is going into its 24th year, and I think this book, Use Your Head to Get Your Foot in the Door, will be around the next 25 years. I honestly believe that.
I think so, too. It's obviously very timely. Well, Harvey Mackay, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate your insights. They're awesome. This book is so timely, and everybody out there should read it. One of the things we didn't mention is that you start off in the book, in Chapter 2, talking about 7 danger signals that you may soon be out of a job. Mm-hmm. So that's sort of another whole part of it we didn't get a chance to discuss, but if you want to make any comments on that, I think it's very important to stay in the job.
Yeah, as soon as you start going to fewer meetings, then you have to have your antenna up all the time. And as soon as you start going to fewer meetings than you've done before, then look out. As soon as you might move your desk a little bit, might be moved somewhere where all of a sudden it's not as prestigious as before, that can be a thing. The boss might start asking for more reports than ever before. You might not be invited to as many meetings as you were invited to before. You might be asked for more records than you've been asked for before. There's a myriad of reasons why. You might see the boss taking someone out, okay, that you don't recognize. All those danger signals are there. And here is a sad statistic. This Time Magazine Gallup poll, 70% of all Americans do not like their boss. And 30% are not happy with their jobs. So, I mean, it's just critical to know that the real number out there is 17% unemployment. When you add the people looking for work, Jason, looking for work, when you add the people that have stopped looking for work.
The discouraged workers, right? Yeah.
Discouraged, yeah. And you look for the people that have taken part-time jobs rather than full-time jobs. You got it? That goes to close to 17%.
Harvey, I would even add one more, the underemployed and the independent contractors. Those two groups, I think the true unemployment rate is upwards of 20%, but of course it depends how you count it. But I agree with you completely. One of the great things about your philosophy is people need to think like an entrepreneur, even if they are employed. They need to think like an intrapreneur. How can I constantly add value? How can I bring more of a network and more value to my company? This is all just good stuff.
No question about it. Absolutely. Whatever your job is, try to be a little bit more versatile. Try to do some other people's job. Try to learn some other people's job. Everything. If on the computer on a 1 to 10 scale, 1 to 10, 10 is the best, you're a 6 or 7, then go back to school, get a teacher, get a coach, do it yourself, doesn't matter, and get some computer skills, get some sales skills. Toastmasters, one of the best kept secrets in the world. They're all over the world in 80 countries. Toastmasters International, join it tomorrow morning. I'll give you your money back if you don't think you got your value. Dale Carnegie, take Dale Carnegie courses. Public speaking, how to get along with people. You can enhance your skills all of your life. There's no reason for any person out there, if they really want to get that job, they will, if they practice the right concepts.
Yeah, and you've always been so passionate about lifelong learning. It's a great thing to impart to people because nothing stays the same anymore. We're in a fast-changing world, so we've got to embrace that. Well, Harvey Mackay, thank you so much. The website is harveymackay.com. You've got a free book up there and a lot of free resources. I took a look at the site myself, and it's just fantastic. And much continued success, Harvey. We appreciate having you on the show.
Thank you, Jason. It's Mackay. A lot of people misspell the name. That's all, harveymackay.com, www, of course. And believe me, they will have a lot of tools. And hit that toolbar. It's a dream. It's the easiest toolbar in the United States on any site, anywhere.
Good stuff. Harvey Mackay, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I loved it. Bye-bye.
Copyright the Hartman Media Company. For publication rights and interviews, please email media@jasonhartman.com. This show offers very general information. Opinions of guests are their own. Nothing contained herein should be considered personalized, personal, financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. Every investor's strategy and goals are unique. You should consult with a licensed real estate broker or agent or other licensed investment, tax, and/or legal advisor before relying on any information contained herein. Information is not guaranteed. Please call 714-820-4200 and visit www.jasonhartman.com for additional disclaimers, disclosures, and questions.